matchmaking system, but you have a little kind of chat box that pops up, and usually it's for troubleshooting.
Gotcha.
But I use it to say, hi, good luck, have fun, that type of
nice
thing.
things.
Yeah, exactly. And so I say that, hello, like, good luck and have fun. And my opponent just says, oh, looks like I got the bye this round. Lucky me.
That's weird.
And I'm like, all right, well, this guy's trash talking. That's cool. Like, we're in the 5-0 bracket here, and he's just decided to bring the mental mind games.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm about to just respond in kind, right? And then I decide, I'll just give him an LOL. And I was thinking, is he like the matchup? But I was Gruul and he's Rogues, which I think I'm actually favored in.
Yeah.
So he definitely doesn't have a bye against Gruul, And then just a minute passes by and he goes, oh, wait. Sorry, I thought you were someone else. Oh my god, I have a friend whose name is Jeffrey Pika. My name's Jeffrey Pike, right? He was like, oh, dude, I'm sorry. Please destroy me.
And did you destroy him?
I ended up winning narrowly. I had 0 cards left in my library when I won.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we are regulars on MTG Arena.
Yep.
Yeah, we are. We're also just regular dudes.
Yeah, exactly. Although, we might have to change our entire podcast dynamic here.
Why?
Because the whole thing is that we're regular dudes just playing Arena and drinking beers, but I'm officially a professional Magic the Gathering Arena player.
Oh, that's true. All right, yeah. Jeff, do you want to quickly explain that?
So over the weekend I played in a Star City Games tournament. So the way it works is on Friday and Saturday, they run a whole bunch of mini events. There's 6 rounds each. If you go 4-2 or better, you qualify for the big event on Sunday. And if you go like 5-1, you get a bye in the big event. 6-0 gets you 2 buys. So I went 4-2 in that. Just snuck in there.
Yeah.
And then I played in Sunday's event, and I made the top 8. So that's a 9-round event. I finished 8-1, which put me in 3rd place in the Swiss. Unfortunately, I lost in the quarterfinals, but I ended up in the top 8. It came with a sweet prize of $250 US dollars. So that makes me a professional player now.
Congratulations. You didn't sleep through a tournament.
That's right, yeah.
That's awesome.
Turns out when you don't sleep through it and you play the best deck, good things can happen.
Good things
even
can
to
happen.
players of my caliber.
Oh, man. Well, besides that, we are going to be talking about the league weekend winner of our fantasy draft that we did. And then we also have Kaladesh Remastered. We're going to talk a little bit about historic and draft, what's going to come up, because that is starting Thursday, the 12th.
Right.
But before we do that, Jeff, what is on tap? What are you drinking?
I am drinking La Fin du Monde. So this is a beer out of, it's near Montreal where it's brewed. It's called Unibrew. This is a 9% Belgian triple.
Ooh.
And this beer is awesome. I've had it before. The reason I had to bring this is that Zach and I actually met at a kind of a board game cafe, I guess you would call it. And they used to run an event called Draft and Draft, where you show up, you draft, and you drink beer.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Zach. And the format when I met you was Aether Revolt Draft, I think. And so in honor of today being all about Kaladesh and Aether Revolt, and La Fin du Monde, by the way, was the beer that I always drank when we were there.
Yes.
So it just felt like it had to be this one. What did you bring?
I brought, I was thinking, we haven't done a stout on the podcast yet.
Right.
So I was looking for a stout, and then I found this one, and this is from Kensington Brewing Company, and it's called It's a Stout. And it is. It's a stout. It has roasted cacao nibs.
I almost wish the can just had nothing else, though. It just said Kensington, and then It's a Stout in Times New Roman.
I first looked at it, and it's like this purple circle with like eyes on it, and I thought it was a meatball or something.
Looks like a moon to me.
Yeah, but then it has sun rays or maybe like petals. It could be a flower.
Yeah.
But it also looks like it's in the sky because there's like clouds behind it. But then there's also like kind of this festive, I don't know, party favors. I don't know. I'm really not sure what it is. But it almost
eclipse,
makes me...
maybe it looks like a moon in front of blocking out the sun that's showing up behind it.
And their eyes are, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. It could be a cacao nib for all I know.
There you go.
But it's a stout. It's 5.8%, and that's what it is.
So in Magic news this week, there's the festival on the Edge. This standard-ish. It's like half standard.
Yeah, it was like standard without the busted Eldraine cards, basically.
Right, which sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, it was basically standard without Eldraine and Theros Beyond Death. Yeah, it was interesting. I just took I played in it. I don't know.
Okay.
Did you play in it?
No, I always think about playing in these things and then never want to commit the gold to it. So.
And see, now my gold is basically for that.
Right.
Because I'm trying to collect all those card styles.
They are nice.
Yeah, so basically I just took a deck that I've been playing and just took out the Eldraine cards and then played that. It was good. It was fine. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I got to say about it. I don't have
Did anything else happen this weekend in Magic news that you were aware of?
Besides the league weekend?
Oh, the league weekend.
Yeah, the second. Okay,
I'm excited to talk about this.
I think you're just telegraphing a little bit. You're ruining the suspense. Second.
No, I'm just excited about league weekend.
Yes, the second Zendikar Rising league weekend was this weekend with the MPL players and the Rivals players duking it out to see who is going to get the most points.
For those who didn't listen last week, Zach and I did like a fantasy draft, basically. So Zach picked first, and he got to pick. We picked 3 MPL players each.
Yes.
Then I picked first for Rivals. We picked 3 Rivals players each. And then we picked a deck that we thought was going to have the most metagame share, so the most popular deck.
Yes.
And then a deck that we thought was going to have the best win percentage against the field.
Right. So let's just read who we picked and just what our teams are before we actually unveil. I guess whatever the points.
Yeah.
So I took PVDDR
Right.
first, and then I had Reed Duke and Brad Nelson.
Okay.
And then for Rivals, I had Stanislav Sivka, Kenji Egashira, and then Jessica Estevan. And then the meta percentage, I chose Gruul Adventures, and then my top performance was Rakdos Midrange,
Wah, wah.
which not of 72 players, not a single person played that deck, and it was really just soul crushing to start the weekend knowing I already lost a point, maybe 2.
Well, it didn't lose any games.
It didn't lose any. That's true. But yeah, tell us what your team was.
Okay, so for the MPL, I had Autumn Burchett, Seth Manfield, and Ken Yukihiro. And in the Rivals League, I had Luis Scott Vargas, Jacob Wilson, and Ben Stark. I also selected Gruul Adventures as my most popular deck. And for top performing deck, I picked Esper Yorion. So the Yorion, and in particular, I specified I was thinking the Doom Foretold variant.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is mainly what. Well,
I don't think there was any other one.
Yeah, there wasn't. There were a lot of Doom Foretold decks, but not
Right.
different Esper decks.
Right.
I think they're all playing that basically.
We figured if you just say Yorion, that's not fair. So
It's not fair because there's so many different things that are happening with that. But as Jeff has already kind of alluded to,
No.
you did. It's fine. He won for the week.
I came out slightly ahead, yeah.
Slightly. I think you won by 7 points, which is pretty great.
Right. So for each win over the weekend, we gave ourselves 1 point. And then if you did in fact get, so if my deck for top performance did better than Zach's, which it did, I get a point, and same with meta percentage. And then if you pick the absolute number 1, then you get a point for that as well.
Yeah, basically. We didn't exactly do that for the Gruul Adventures deck just because we both picked it and it was the top. I think it was like 1 for top and 1 for beating the other
Right,
person.
and neither of us beat the other person, so we just get 1 for
So
top.
we just get 1, but then you beat me with the Esper Yorion.
Right,
so you
even
got
though
a
it
point.
wasn't the top performing deck.
Yeah, which we'll talk about the top one.
Right,
in a
so
minute.
Autumn Burchett won 4 matches, got me 4 points. They brought Esper Doom Foretold.
Yeah, that was a little bit harder. I wasn't expecting that. I was surprised.
Yeah, a lot of Autumn's teammates did really well with this exact same deck. Yeah, things just didn't go as well for them. You know, sometimes the cards just aren't there.
Yep.
Seth Manfield played Gruul Adventures. He got me 6 points. And Ken Yukihiro coming up big out of left field with mono green food, 8 wins.
What even is that? I mean, so not only did Ken Yukihiro get 8 wins, but he's the only person who got 8 or more wins in the MPL.
He did the best.
He did the best, and you picked him. And you picked. I was trying to like sniper a deck that only like a couple people were going to play, so I could win the top performance.
Right.
And then him. And it was that one.
But that is why I picked him. He's the wild card. He always brings something that's good, but not really on the map.
Yeah, and so people won't really be expecting it. I was definitely not expecting that. I didn't think that we would see any mono green food decks.
For sure.
So,
And how'd the MPL turn out for you?
Paolo got 6 points with Demir Rogues. Solid. Not as good as before, but obviously, like, you can't expect the
Maybe you
world
should
of
have run
everyone.
Rakdos back.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that
You
would
got
be
9
great.
points with Rakdos?
Yeah, so that was nice. He's doing quite well overall, but this weekend was like, middle pack. Reed Duke also got 6 with Grow Adventures, and then Brad Nelson was my big stinker of the week. He was playing Grow Adventures. They got 3 points.
Which just shows what a ridiculous league the MPL is if a player of Brad Nelson's caliber, who's often regarded as one of the best standard players in the world, only gets 3 points.
I thought that was a great pick, and it just was not his week. And, well, yeah, I'm just disappointed to say the least. But
like one of the best standard players with the best standard deck, it seems like a lock for a good pick.
Exactly. So that was for me. But then my rivals, I had Stanislav got 7 points with Esper Doom. Kenji Egashira got 7 with Azorius Blink, and then Jessica Esteban got 6 with.
Interestingly, Kenji was the only person to bring Blue-White Yorion.
Yeah.
That deck did really bad on the previous weekend. Like, a lot of people brought it last time. It had a horrible win percentage, and Kenji decided to bring it this time, and he did well.
And he did well because I guess people were expecting it to shift over to something else, or.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but
I don't know. But so I was pretty actually happy with that. I thought I was like, okay, these numbers are pretty solid. 6s and 7s are pretty
not bad.
Yeah. What'd you get?
So Luis Scott Vargas had 9 wins, 9-2, with Gruul Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Wilson, the Canadian connection here, played Celestia, so Green-White Yorion, and he got 7 wins. And Ben Stark brought Orzhov Black-White Doom Foretold deck, got 7 wins as well.
So, yeah, that there were only 3 people in the rivals that got 9 points. It was LSV, and then Matthew Sperling and Shitaro Ishimura.
Right,
So,
and Matt Sperling, I think, is one of Autumn Burchett's teammates, playing the same Esper Doom list.
Yeah, I think so too. And then Shintaro, he was playing Teamer Ramp. And he actually had the best meta percentage as far as he was the only person that played Teamer Ramp in Rivals. And
then that deck went 9-2.
Yeah, he went 9-2, so he did better than every other percentage just because there was only one sample size. But we're still counting that. We're counting it.
So because if you ask for a deck to have more than 2 players, I think Esper Yorion was the best performing deck.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly, because behind the Teamer Ramp, it was Mono Green Food that also did very well.
Right, so Gruul Adventures dominated both metagames.
Yes.
Nearly 50%.
I think it was 45.8% in both.
Yeah, it was the exact same
I kept getting confused because I was like looking at them and like, wait, is this the same one? Like,
Right.
No, these are different. But
yeah, because obviously it's 24 in one and 48 in other. So, exactly, whatever that is, 10 or 11 people played it, and then twice that many played it in the other one. So.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of funny. But we were right with that. So
yeah, I would be really shocked if that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
I mean, the Gruul deck is just the best deck in the format, I think.
Yeah. So we'll see how many come for the championship. That'll be really fun to draft. We'll see.
And Gruul still, it should be noted, still did pretty well, even though it had the big target on its head. People were bringing decks. If you thought your deck wasn't good against Gruul, you couldn't bring it, basically.
Exactly.
Everyone knew it was going to be half the metagame, and it was half the metagame almost.
Yeah.
And then in terms of best performing decks, like Zach said, Teamer Ramp out of Rivals, 1 copy, and it did really well. Mm-hmm. But then across Rivals and MPL, there were 4 copies of Mono Green Food, 2 in each, and it did well in both.
Yeah. So pretty interesting numbers. It's also fun for us to, we were checking.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically just to rip on each other, and I got ripped on this week.
I want to say I almost picked Mono Green Food, but I was not even on my radar.
It wasn't even on my radar at all. But yeah, so we ended the week. I got 36 points, and Jeff got 43.
43.
So he wins the point for the week, and we will continue doing this throughout the championship and the next splits.
Plenty of season left. So.
We do, yeah. It's just the beginning. Okay, I've learned a lot, I think. So we'll see how that goes in the future. But it was actually pretty fun to watch some of the matches. There was a lot of Gruul Adventures mirror matches because
which is as I played Gruul over the weekend, and I only played the mirror match once, but or twice because there are two different events, and it's really intricate because you can just get steamrolled, but you also have to prepare for the long game because card advantage is how you win most games.
Yes.
But if you're not careful, the Gruul deck can kill you out of nowhere. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you do have that kind of balance. It was actually fun. I did see that. I think it was a Gruul mirror match, and the board was empty except for one innkeeper was on the battlefield, and they both had stomp mana open, and so the opponent tries to stomp the innkeeper, and the other player with the innkeeper stomps his own innkeeper
to fizzle the
bone crusher, and I was like, there we go.
That's why you watch this high level play,
because I was like, yeah, that totally.
That's something that might occur to me, but I don't know if I'd have the
guts,
courage to pull the trigger on that,
or just have it like right away, be like
on stream in the MPL.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just very smart. You're seeing red counter spells. So.
Yeah, exactly. And there were some wild card matches too. There was a match between Andrew Cuneo and Li Shiqian. Li Shiqian was on Rogues. Andrew Cuneo was on this outrageous blue-red control deck.
Yeah.
With like midnight clocks to shuffle back in and draw 7 cards and stuff. And Li Shiqian lost because he ran out of time on his clock.
Yeah, that was nuts. Because he was up. I saw this one. Yeah, so he was up by a whole game. Yeah. Like they were in game 2.
Yeah. Andrew Cuneo won 0-1.
Yeah. Because it was nuts. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm not used to seeing. I mean, I've seen that deck a few times, but I wasn't really looking for it. But with that, that was a feature match that was a replacement for.
Right. So Zach and I were very excited because there was one feature match supposed to be a Gruul Adventure mirror between Seth Manfield and Brad Nelson.
And I was like, yeah, let's. Well, actually, you had said, hey, let's watch this over Discord and grab some beers. I'm like, so down for that.
Because those were the only 2 players that were playing against each other in a feature match that we had drafted.
Yes. So we were planning to do this, and then Jeff was doing his tournament and all this stuff. And
as it turns out, the tournament went longer than I expected it to, so.
Which is good. It was really great.
But they switched feature matches for some reason anyways. I don't know if there was technical difficulties.
I think there was some technical diffiles. That was kind of happening throughout the weekend. So we couldn't exactly figure out why, but we ended up, not a lot of people were watching it anyway, so. I hope one day we will be able to watch our players do.
Next time.
Though that I'm assuming that would have been pretty bad. I didn't actually see the actual outcome of what that match was, but I'm assuming Brad lost.
Just based on their relative scores, it's more likely that Seth won.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm thinking about that. But
although I heard Brad talking before the event, saying that he used to test with Seth all the time, and Seth never beat him in mirror matches.
Interesting.
So he was saying that he was like the one guy Seth Manfield was afraid to play in a mirror match because for whatever reason he would always beat him. So that got me nervous, right? I'm like, they're playing a mirror match. Oh no.
But man, oh well. We have plenty of time to keep working on this. The league there's a lot more to go. The next one will be December 3rd, I believe. December 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, and that one will be a bit different because it's a tournament.
Yes. So everyone's starting at 0.
Right. So we'll have to figure out our format for that.
Yeah, we might change it up a little bit. But if you have any suggestions or you think we should change stuff, tell us.
Yeah, let us know.
Find us on our Twitter and Instagram at Arena Regulars and be like, hey, you're doing it wrong. This is how we're supposed to do it.
This is obviously how fantasy MTG MPL is supposed to work.
Come on, dude. Like,
what is it, amateur hour?
Yeah. Playing like, what is it, PPW, I guess? Point per win.
Yeah.
But yeah,
maybe we're supposed to do like a DraftKings kind of thing where we both have an amount of money and we have
maybe that would make sense. And then like you could only pick certain players that are certain
different players cost different amounts.
Yeah, that seems because then we'd have to go through each player and decide
it's so hard to communicate
what they're worth.
Yeah.
I don't really want to decide.
That's just we should tweet them. Oh, we put you at like $100, man.
Yeah, just because we thought it'd be easy. Oh man. So we will. We're gonna slowly figure it out.
I had fun with this system. Honestly, I think overall we both did better than I kind of thought.
Yeah.
We each only had one player on our roster that had a losing record, so less than 50%.
So that feels good.
Yeah.
No terrible. I mean, I was shitting on Brad Nelson quite a bit. Yeah. But no, it was it was pretty fun, and I'm
He'll
excited
bounce
to keep
back
doing
for
it.
sure.
Oh yeah, I have no
And
worries
because he
anymore.
did really well in the first league weekend, he's still doing fine in the league standings.
Yes, yeah, I think he's at 10 points right now,
Right.
something like that. So yeah, we'll just have to keep seeing. But so far, it seems like LSV he has the most points overall of any player.
Yeah, I think he has 18.
He has 18 because he went 9-9. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Proven to just be a really good, consistent pick.
Yeah, it seems like he'll probably
Maybe you want to pick first in Rivals.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. Like, you never know. New sets come out, things happen.
Yeah, and they're just like so many. Both leagues are just chock full of amazing players that anything can kind of happen.
Basically, yeah. And whatever you bring, and yeah, it's just a toss up. We'll see. So I'm quite excited for that. But it turns out fantasy sports are hard. If you make them up yourself, if they are just out there, it's really hard to just be like, hey, this person's going to do really well, and then maybe they don't.
I wonder if we were a bit too focused on their first week performance with some of our picks. I mean, Ken didn't do that well in the first week, but I still picked him.
So that was good.
Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't too down on Ken just because he had a rough week one.
Yeah. And I'm still learning some people a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's what fantasy is best for, right?
Yeah.
Learning all the different players.
Because then you can keep track of what, pick people you don't know very well and see how they do.
Right.
But Emma Handy, she had 8 points, and I should have picked her.
You were talking about picking her.
I wanted to take her, and I did Jessica Estevan instead, who had 2 solid weeks as well. So I think she got 6 and then 6 again. So.
And I think Jessica and Emma are both again on this team of Autumn Burchett,
yes,
and Matt Sperling.
So it
and they always seem to come up with a really good deck for the metagame.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely keeping my eye on them in future picks. But with that, Jeff, how's your beer doing?
Getting there. It is 9%.
That's true. Because this stout, I'm just plowing through it.
All right, I think we're good for a beer break.
I think we need to grab another one.
All right, so you have your fin du monde.
Yeah.
Yeah, he opened it before before we went live here. I'm gonna open my It's a Stout.
Yeah.
So they can hear that satisfying noise.
There you go. Yeah, I have La Fin du Monde.
Very well said. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you specifically picked this because I can't say French words because I'm American. So why would I know how to say other language words?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Come on.
Yeah, and I have It's a Stout. So
yeah, here we go.
That's a stout.
Yeah, this is a triple. Yep.
You must have had that before, right? At Draft and Draft.
I don't think so.
No?
Because I think it was people would say the name, and I'd be like,
I don't want to order that.
I'm gonna order something else because I don't want to say that.
You're waiting for somebody to order it, so you'd be like, I'll have that too.
Yeah, like right behind them. Also, most of the time, I was worried about running out of beer. I wanted to make sure that I had a beer throughout each one of my matches, and because
so you'd order a beer for while you're drafting, and then one for each of your 3 matches, basically.
Yeah, so you'd have 4 beers, and then if you drink 4 beers of this, well, none of your matches are going well.
Yeah, but it was $5 Canadian for a pint of this. That's like an insane deal.
That is very true. I guess I just don't really. I might have not been in the loop. I was just coming into it right when it was there, I think.
Yeah, I guess, if it's not a beer you've heard of too, you don't know that this is a great deal.
Yeah, I had no idea. And I think at the time, I was more focused in trying to talk to people. Because basically the board game cafe that we would go to, I was new to Canada, and so I was like, how do I meet friends? Let's play Magic. I went drafted and just tried to make friends, and then I did. And now I have a podcast with somebody from that. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are talking about Kaladesh Remastered.
Yeah. So what is Kaladesh Remastered, for those who don't know?
It is basically they're bringing Kaladesh and Aether Revolt to Arena, but they wanted to do it in one block, essentially, or one set.
Right.
So they're just mashing both of the sets together and making it one draft format.
Right. So they're going to release a regular size set, 303 cards, I think.
Yes.
That is handpicked, some cards from Kaladesh and some cards from Aether Revolt. It means not every card from that block is in the set.
Yeah. So this Kaladesh Remastered has 303 cards, and Kaladesh and Aether Revolt combined is 448 cards. So there's 145 cards that are taken out. And we're going to talk about some of them.
Yeah, so if you played Amonkhet Remastered or that, which is on Arena, it's the same idea.
Basically the same thing.
Kaladesh and Aether Revolt came out before Amonkhet.
Right before it, yeah.
And this is basically when you started playing again, right? Right around Kaladesh, Ether
This
Revolt.
is when I was playing in paper again.
Yeah.
I had been playing Magic Duels on my phone since Magic Origins, which is kind of when I think that's when that actually started on your phone. And I was really excited about that. But I had moved to Canada right when Aether Revolt was, right in the middle of Aether Revolt.
So it was the draft format.
It was the draft format, and I was like, what is going on? I don't know anything about this stuff. So
Right. So just some notable exclusions before we talk about all the stuff we are excited about.
Yes.
So the cards that have been banned in the Pioneer format are, none of them were included in Kaladesh Remastered. So that means Walking Ballista, Felidar Guardian, and Smuggler's Copter.
Yeah.
All of these have been banned in Pioneer, which is ostensibly a more powerful format than Historic. So the idea is they can't possibly be okay for Historic.
Especially if they're going to start adding more cards on the back end because they're trying to get Pioneer onto
Arena. They're trying to work their way towards having Pioneer on Arena, so just don't bother with the cards that are banned in Pioneer.
Just leave them out, especially because they, Felidar Guardian and Walking Ballista have infinite combos with cards that are coming in or already existing in Arena, so just leave them out.
Yeah, I don't know why they hate Smuggler's Copter so much, but hey, that card is not in it either.
That's the Looter Scooter, right?
The Looter Scooter.
Yeah.
I like that card because it's obviously really good, but I think it incentivizes good things, attacking and blocking and actually trying to, move the game along.
Yeah.
But they've decided it's too powerful, so
just leave it out.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I'm not. There are some people that have strong opinions about this. I'm not one of them.
Right. I don't think it should have been banned in Pioneer, and I was playing Pioneer at the time that it was banned.
Oh, specifically Smuggler's Copter?
Smuggler's Copter,
Got it.
Yeah.
I just meant in general, all of them.
Oh, the Walking Ballista and Felidar Guardian absolutely are good exclusions. And Smuggler's Copter makes sense to me.
Yeah, so I totally get that. There are some cards that were banned in Standard that are in the set, actually.
Yeah. Kaladesh Block seems to like the ban list.
Yeah, I mean, usually when you have artifact-based sets, things start to get a little crazy. Just in the history of Magic, if you have been around. But basically, Etherworks Marvel, Rogue Refiner, and Attune with Aether were all banned in Standard at the time, and they actually appear in this set.
Yeah.
So
to the surprise of a lot of people, I think. I'm fine with it. Let's bring them in and ban them if they become a problem in Historic.
Absolutely.
Which I think they will.
Yeah. They're also like energy cards. Yeah. And having more energy cards is important if you're trying to have that be a viable strategy at all.
Right.
So just start out with them. The other cards obviously don't have that. So I think it's good include. And then if they become a problem, get rid of them. But let's play. I didn't really get to play a lot of energy, so let's go.
Let's give them a chance. But
I'm ready for
I gotta tell you, man, I don't see Etherworks Marvel lasting too long.
There is one card that does not appear in the Kaladesh block. That is part of the set. It is Sculpting Steel. And in the previews, it is the masterpiece version of it.
Right. It has a different border than all the other cards.
Every other card, including the cards that all the Gear Hulks have their alternate art that is not in the masterpiece border, but it's the masterpiece art.
It's the masterpiece art, but it's not the masterpiece border. So this one is unique.
Yeah. So we think that it's actually going to be the buy a box promo.
Right.
Quote unquote buy in box promo because you can't buy boxes, but you get a copy if you get 45 packs or 90 packs in the store on Arena.
Yeah.
So we're just guessing that's probably what it is.
Right. Otherwise it just sticks out like a sore thumb.
It just seems strange.
Like a bit of an odd inclusion. But.
Yeah. But I mean, nice to have it in Historic. It is definitely a brewing card because it can do a lot of different things. So it's just like 4 extra copies of whatever artifact you want. So.
Yeah, it's a bit notable that Amonkhet Remastered, they added in a lot of extra cards using this idea of there were, masterpieces in Amonkhet.
Yes.
And so they used that to add in extra cards, some of which weren't even masterpieces.
Yeah.
Kaladesh hasn't done that. There's only a couple of added cards. One's a masterpiece, one's from the Planeswalker deck.
Yeah, so the Planeswalker deck one is the Pendulum of Patterns. So that only appeared in that Planeswalker deck, and then I think in M19 Planeswalker deck as well. It just seems like it basically it's a card that will trigger Revolt, and it's an artifact. So that is probably why it was there. And I'm totally fine with that. That's great. Have it. They already have Planeswalker deck cards on Arena, and I don't use them. So they just, they're there.
Yeah, so why don't we talk a little bit about what we think this is going to do to Historic?
Yeah, I guess.
So for those who don't know, if you didn't play during this block, this was one of the most dominant blocks of all time in terms of standard play.
Yeah.
It dominated from release immediately straight to rotation. All the most powerful cards were always from this block. I think it's the only thing I've seen like it is we're in the middle of it right now with Throne of Eldraine, where we keep banning Throne of Eldraine cards, and Throne of Eldraine cards are still the best. You know, it was kind of like that, but I would say to even a more noticeable degree.
I definitely think it is, specifically with, energy is just like a new resource that they just put into the game that you can't interact with. And so that just was so huge.
Right.
That people that were using this thing, like you can't stone rain their energy. Not that that's a good analogy, but basically you just can't do anything about it.
And so basically what this means, if you're a Historic player, this is going to shake up Historic in a massive way. These cards are very, very good.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of very, very good cards. So let's just talk about some of the archetypes that were present in this Kaladesh-dominated standard a couple of years run we're talking here.
Yeah.
The one that stands out most to me is Etherworks Marvel decks. So Etherworks Marvel is an energy-based card that lets you look at the top, 6 cards of your library? And
I believe that's true.
Maybe 7. Let me just get the card up. But it lets you cast one for free without paying its mana cost.
Yep.
And so the game plan was essentially get as much energy as you can, and then use Etherworks Marvel to try to cast a free Eldrazi Titan off the top of your library. In Standard, you had Emrakul, the one from Shadows over Innistrad block, not the one, not the other one, and Ulamog from again from Battle for Zendikar. We have Ulamog in Historic, so that's still a target.
That's true.
So these decks proved to be a little more viable than people thought, basically because it looked at first like this was, if you get all the right cards in the right order, you're going to win, but otherwise your cards don't really do anything. But it turns out if you're able to put cards in your deck like Chandra Torch of Defiance, that also appears in Kaladesh, as just a way to mitigate, even if you don't hit your Eldrazi Titan, you're still just gaining a free, super powerful Planeswalker.
Yeah.
And so they just became very, very consistent, which I think people didn't expect. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to tell you some cards that Historic has access to that these busted Aetherworks Marvel standard decks did not have access to at the time.
Okay.
And I'll go from least exciting to most exciting.
All right, I'm excited for this because I don't know. All right.
All right. So all of these decks are green-blue because green is the best at making energy, and blue is just a natural pairing to green. They now have access to, can I interest you in Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath?
Okay, yeah, that sounds pretty good.
So these decks can play a copy or two of this. This, if they don't draw Aetherworks Marvel, this will ramp them up to their big stuff and give them, again, if they don't draw the Marvel, some late game stuff to do.
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't know if that's, honestly, in this deck, I don't even know if that's better than Rogue Refiner, but maybe you play 2 copies as Rogue Refiner, like 5 and 6. Can I interest you in hitting off your Aetherworks Marvel? Ugin, the Spirit Dragon.
Ooh, yeah.
It's not something they had access to at the time, and now it is available to Historic players.
And that was, like, I think Ugin just rotated out when this card came out.
Right, because it was in Fate Reforged.
Yes. Yeah. That sounds like a card that it would be great to just, especially because Aetherworks Marvel is colorless.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about wiping it.
Now here's the best part, in my opinion.
All right.
We now have Turn Timber Symbiosis and Seagate Reforged. These are lands that are both 7 drops for your Etherworks Marvel targets.
Wow. Okay. All right. I see that. All right.
Yeah. So because you basically cannot miss now.
Yeah. Because your lands are targets.
Yeah.
Because obviously when you're flipping over the top of your deck, you're going to see them as
spells.
A spell and not a land. Wow. Okay.
And Turn Timber Symbiosis, if you don't draw your Marvel, you could just cast that into an Ulamog. That's still an option.
Oof. All right. Okay. I'm
having a hard time seeing how this isn't the best historic deck. Once you figure out all the numbers, there's going to be some stuff to figure out here because it's not trivial.
Yeah.
But there's just so many powerful cards going on here.
Just more for the deck that I don't play. Great. Yeah.
Awesome. So Etherworks Marvel, it dominated Pro Tour and Monquette and was subsequently banned in Standard, as we kind of mentioned.
All right. Well, good things to know. Moving on, the next one deck we're going to talk about, basically it's energy variants. So any energy-based deck.
Right. So what kind of happened is all energy decks were Etherworks Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Then they banned Etherworks Marvel. And then all these kind of mid-range energy decks playing a lot of the same cards, but instead of trying to combo finish, they just kind of played a mid-range game, emerged as being really good decks. The most popular one was Teamer, but Sultai was a big player as well. Seth Manfield won a Pro Tour.
Yeah, specifically decks that can play both Rogue Refiner and Attune with Nature are really big pieces. Obviously, those are cards that got banned, so...
Yeah, good point. They're always sort of green-blue based.
And you have another color that
maybe you're splashing red, maybe you're splashing black, or there was even a 4-color version. If I had to bet, I would say this would immediately be a player in Historic as well, and I would lean towards playing the Sultai version myself.
Because Sultai's already... Well, I mean, they're both pretty good. But...
Well, can you think of a card in Historic that is amazing that was not available to players at the time for why they would not choose black?
You got to give it to me.
Thoughtseize.
Right, of course.
They're gonna play black because they get Thoughtseize.
Because they get Thoughtseize.
So when it was in Standard, red had slightly better energy cards, I would say. They had Whirler Virtuoso and Harnessed Lightning. On the other hand, black gave you Glint Sleeve Siphoner, and you get Fatal Push for playing black.
Oh, that's true.
But I think the balance is the scale is too in the favor of black in Historic when you add Thoughtseize into the mix. So, I mean, Fatal Push is another card that should be mentioned. That's going to be the best removal spell in Historic now that it's available. But yeah, I would say I would look out for Sultai mid-range energy decks.
Yeah, so, it already, just talking about those two, we have a lot more to go through that we're going to get to, but it already feels like there's going to be a huge shakeup.
And we should mention that deck was so powerful, it got cards banned as well. Namely, Rogue Refiner was banned from this, and Attune with Ether. These energy mid-range decks were too oppressive.
Yeah. One deck I'm actually excited for is a Vehicles deck. So primarily, usually they're Mardu, is what I've seen. And that is something that interests me. I thought the vehicles were really cool.
Yeah.
When they came out, and having an aggressive vehicle deck is something that I looked forward to. So I'm definitely interested in building a version of that. But yeah, I think that...
Right. For those who don't know, Vehicles started in Kaladesh.
Yes, Vehicles started.
This was the first time they made cards like that.
Yes.
And I think they didn't quite know how to design them, so the best vehicles are mostly from Kaladesh, because they hadn't quite figured out the right balance on
because now they're, I mean...
Crew cost tends to be higher now.
Yeah, and what's the last vehicle that we've had that was printed? Was it from War of the Spark? Was it the white Angel Maker thing?
Yeah, maybe.
Which was proved to be not fantastic.
Right, they really made sure that
they really just downplayed that.
Be too good,
because there's a bunch of vehicles in that set that were all very underwhelming. So, but these vehicles are dope.
Yeah, I remember playing Standard when Mardu Vehicles was kind of the deck to beat. It's just a very good aggro deck.
Yeah,
because vehicles can't really be killed by sorcery speed removal because they're not creatures on your opponent's turn. It makes it really, and they kind of have haste because you play a creature and crew them right away.
Yeah.
It makes it really hard to interact with them.
So with this, I mean, this has nothing to do with the decks that were prevalent at the time.
Yeah.
But it does remind me, I had built a commander deck that was Mardu vehicles, but the premise of the deck was in War of the Spark, Gideon rides Rakdos at a certain point and then tries to kill Bolus.
What's the name of that card? It gives like +2/+0 and indestructible.
Basically, yeah, and that's a picture of him. But so the whole point of the deck is that I had every Gideon you could play, and all they did was crew vehicles and ride. So it was called Gideon Ride Stuff. Nice. And so if I can build a Gideon Ride Stuff historic deck, I'm so excited. Also because you can't kill Gideon at sorcery speed you can kill a planeswalker, but it's a bit harder than just killing a creature.
Sure, yeah.
So if he's only a creature during your turn,
yeah.
It's gonna be so funny. Definitely won't work, but I'm definitely gonna
love that
and try it. So
yeah, I mean, Mardu Vehicle is gonna be a great option. I don't know if it will be good enough for historic, but
yeah, we'll see. I'm not super sure.
But it is worth mentioning here. Mardu Vehicles was literally 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th place in Pro Tour Aether Revolt.
Wow.
And in that top 8 of that tournament, there were 31 copies of Scrap Heap Scrounger, which is, I think, the most of all time, any Pro Tour to have 31 copies of a single card in the top 8.
Oh, wow, okay.
So Scrap Heap Scrounger, watch out for it. It's just an aggro, it's a 3/2 for 2 that just keeps coming back.
Yeah, you can just keep playing it from your graveyard.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, I'm all for crazy different stuff, obviously, but...
And I would say those were the decks that really dominated formats. And then there were a lot of other decks that were good, ranging from tier 1 to just kind of poking their head in and out of the metagame.
Yeah.
There's a lot of control decks because Torrential Gearhulk is a hell of a card.
Yeah.
Blue, whatever you want, basically. Normally blue-red and blue-black.
Yeah.
A Torrential Gearhulk's just great. If you played Historic, you're familiar with Godpharaoh's Gift. It just came out in an Amonkhet Remastered.
Yep.
The deck's usually mono-black. But at this time, because of Kaladesh and stuff, they're playing blue-white. Because white gives you Refurbish.
Yes, which just gets to... You just put it straight from your graveyard to the battlefield, yeah?
Yeah, it's a reanimator spell for an artifact.
Crazy.
So you can mill yourself, and then blue has ways to mill you, and white just returns that. And then it also had Angel of Invention, which is really good with Godpharaoh's Gift because it gives all your creatures +1/+1, and it has lifelink, and it makes servos.
When it comes into play.
And it comes in with counters if you don't want the servos.
Yeah, but it's going to be a lot of this. I mean, obviously... Getting a set that goes straight into historic by bypassing standard will shake up a bunch of stuff.
For sure.
Especially because we have all this information that we need to talk about.
And this set is just jam-packed full of A+, basically.
Because after this, the next 3 sets, if they keep going back in this order, are not going to be as influential.
Right.
We'll have a cherry pick a couple cards, but we don't get to talk about just straight decks, I think.
Yeah, the only one I can think of is Delirium.
Probably, yeah.
With Emrakul. So it depends if Emrakul's in there or not.
Yeah, which...
he's legal in Pioneer, so maybe maybe he will be.
So we'll see. And then the last one we were really going to talk about is basically decks that used Electrostatic Pummeler. They're kind of just built directly around that. And then counters.
Yeah, right. So there's Winding Constrictor. It's black-green decks were built around Winding Constrictor. The weird thing about Historic is you have another Winding Constrictor in white that was printed recently.
Yeah.
But part of the reason these decks were so good is they had Walking Ballista. And doubling counters on Walking Ballista is really, really strong.
Because then it's just straight X.
Yeah. And when you put a counter on with its activated ability, doubles it as well.
Yes.
And this can just give the deck reach. It gives it removal spell. Essentially, it gives it reach.
Yeah.
And that's not available because that's not in Kaladesh Remastered.
That's true.
Okay. So you're kind of getting more consistency in your Winding Constrictor doubling +1/+1 counters thing, but you are losing your best card.
Yeah. But then we do have the Ozolith, so those decks will play that. So obviously,
I'd be interested to see if people can make it work.
Like an Abzan counters deck.
Right. And Thoughtseize,
Yeah, we'll have to ask our buddy who just plays Abzan counters.
Yeah, in everything.
Yeah, so we'll see if that's viable.
Right.
We'll ask him.
I'm sure he'll tell us it is.
Yeah, no matter what. He's like, you can play Abzan counters.
Yeah, of course.
But before we get into talking about some draft notes, we did want to talk about having a plan. Just like not necessarily a draft plan as in play these colors or do this thing or whatever.
Right.
But we want to talk about no pass cards. Like cards that you see and you just take.
Right. So the best way to acquire a new set is always to draft it if you can.
Yes.
And so, here on the Arena Regulars, we approve of rare drafting.
We are actually not just approving, but we are pro rare drafting.
We're pro rare drafting.
We tell you to rare draft. Basically, because this set is going to be difficult to get, you can't get any packs from the Mastery Pass, right? That's a way to get old sets or different random things, right? You have to be drafting. They don't do quick drafts of it. It's all premier drafts, or you just buy the set straight out. So when you see something like the fast lands, if you see a fast land in a pack, take it, because otherwise it's just a wild card you're using.
Yeah, so the fast lands are the dual lands that appear in this set.
Yeah, so it's all the enemy colored fast lands,
right,
which come into play untapped unless you have a certain number of lands.
Right.
So take them. You're gonna probably want to. I mean, we always say lands are really important. Make your mana base as great as it can be. Don't build the deck and be like, oh, well, I couldn't add that land because I didn't have it. Right. Like, just have them already.
Yeah. So we're not saying just take the rare in every pack, but what we are saying is make a list of cards that you're going to craft anyways.
Yes. And a lot of this is you specifically.
Yeah.
So we're going to give you a list, but some of these are just our specific picks.
Yeah, there's one on here that I wouldn't put on my list.
Yeah, and mine, and I know which one it is, and I'm just going to definitely take it because I want to build that deck.
Right.
But the fast lands, we agree, that is absolutely number one. If it's not on your list, add it to your list.
Yeah.
Because they are going to be important, and you want to have access to them. You don't want to be building decks and be like, oh, well, if I could have one, but I don't want to spend a rare wild card on it, so I just won't.
Yeah, and just a general comment I have is that you'll always hear people telling you not to rare draft because they claim the relative quality of the pick you get will make you do enough better in the draft that you will earn more wildcards and packs from not rare drafting. I think that is not true.
That's a load of shit is what that is.
That's a load of shit. So first of all, random packs, prize packs are not worth as much as a card that you're going to craft.
Yes.
That's worth a whole wild card, essentially. And a pack is worth a sixth of a wild card.
Yeah.
And also, modern formats have so many playables that your deck is going to be good.
Yes.
So you're giving up like a pick that slightly improves your deck versus something that really improves your
constructed game.
Yeah, really improves your collection.
Yes.
Like how many times have you gotten a first pick overall absolute limited bomb and never drawn it in your draft?
So many times. The amount of times that I was playing Eldraine and drafted Questing Beast, and it just never comes up.
Right.
And I'm like, I already have 4 copies of this. Why did I take this?
Right.
And it's so frustrating. And you might later pass up off color rare that you would use, but you're like, oh, well, it's not in for my deck, and I should do the correct thing, quote unquote.
The likelihood that this pretty good to good common or uncommon that you're gonna take, it has to show up and be a deciding factor in that game, and enough of a deciding factor that another good card that you're going to get later in the draft wouldn't have won you the game. All of those things lining up, I think, is just not that likely.
Yeah.
And so I would take it over a random rare that I don't want, but I would never take it over a rare that I know I'm going to end up spending a wild card anyways.
Yes.
Because it's not worth a wild card to me.
So having a time where you sit down and just write it can be a 5-card list. It doesn't. We're not saying something
Well,
big.
it has to be at least 5 because there are 5 fast lands.
Yes. Well, I was going to count fast lands as just 1 card.
Yeah.
But basically, thinking about it in a sense that like these are the ones on my list. If it's not on the list and not in my colors or not going to be good for my deck, I don't pick it.
Yeah.
But basically, the card that Jeff was talking about earlier is that I really want a playset of Bomat Couriers. I really thought that I'm not super interested in red deck wins or those decks most of the time, but I thought that the Bomat Courier version of that deck was really interesting, and it made me like that more, especially, well, I mean, obviously it's the card draw that you get, and that's always
Bomat Courier is incredible. It should slot into mono red historic.
Exactly. Like the play pattern of mono red is always just like you run out of cards and what are you going to do? Right. And they're kind of using like Robber of the Rich and different things to kind of use your opponent's deck. But Bomat Courier basically does that with your cards. Yeah. And you get to just load up your whole hand, though.
If you've ever played against this card, you know how good it is.
It's very good. So that is on my list. I don't think it's on Jeff's, but I'm definitely trying to take that.
But again, you don't have to pick that if you're not going to craft it. So if you have literally no interest in playing mono red and historic,
don't even think about it.
It only goes in that deck.
That's literally the only time you use it. Pass it up. Just let it go. One that you should think about is Chandra Torch of Defiance.
Right. This is kind of the quintessential awesome planeswalker.
Yes.
It ramps, it is removal, and it's card advantage, and it has a game-winning ultimate.
Yeah.
And it's only 4 mana. You don't usually get this package.
This is like, it's one of the best planeswalkers.
Yeah, it's a card that's good on an empty board and good on a board where you're slightly behind. This card was kind of all over the place. Mm-hmm. As long as it was legal.
Yeah.
Whether in the sideboard for aggro decks to kind of get more mid-rangey or just in the main deck.
Exactly. So I definitely say look out for it. Grab a copy or two if you see them.
I'd be surprised if this doesn't see any historic play.
I would be very surprised, I think. But what are some cards that you're excited about?
So Etherworks Marvel, I think, is on my no-pass list because... I don't know. I think it's going to get banned, but they'll give me the wild card for that. So I'm kind of picking a mythic wild card there.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So we always talk about acquiring cards you think are going to get banned, using wild cards because you'll get them back and you might be able to use them in different formats or whatever.
Right.
But with this one, if you think it's going to get banned already, like, do you just lose a draft pick that way?
No, because you pick it in the draft, and then they give you a mythic wild card for having it in your collection.
That's true.
So you're picking a mythic wild card.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is the best possible.
That's what you said earlier. This 9% is really getting.
No, but I'm explaining why.
Of course. Yes. You're just picking wild cards in your draft.
I'm just adding a mythic wild card right into my collection.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Kind of the way I'm looking at it. And if that's not the case. If it doesn't get banned, I'd be surprised if it's not at least a good deck and one that wouldn't mind playing. So
a copy of it. You never want to have a reason where you're like, well, I could play this deck. I just don't have any Aetherwork Marvels.
Right.
Well, you should have that.
And this is where I don't know how good this card is actually in limited. So you are just picking it for your collection.
That's very true. Yeah.
The other one is kind of a pet card of mine, Paradox Engine, another mythic rare. I always wanted to make this card work when it was in Standard. I never quite got there.
Yeah. But, it definitely works in Commander. So
yeah. And then for me, there's Tezzeret the Schemer and Marionette Master. These are both just cards that I really like. I wouldn't advise you put these necessarily on your list because they didn't see that much play. But I built a deck out of them that I loved that put Treasure Map. And so it made all this treasure, and then Marionette Master, every time you sack an artifact goes to your graveyard, it drains them. So you just sack treasures and get a combo kill. And Tezzeret was kind of the bridge. It made treasures. It called them something else, but Ethereum cells or something. But it makes treasure tokens, and it is a removal spell. So in that deck, it was very good. I called this deck Treasurette because it was treasure and Tezzeret.
Yep.
And actually... there's an article somewhere if someone wants to try to dig it up on Channel Fireball. I went 7-2 with this in a Pro Tour qualifier. Finished in 9th place.
Classic, Jeff.
And was this the one I finished in 9th? I finished tied for 8th for sure, but maybe not actually 9th. And they wrote an article about how you can still play competitive Standard on a budget, and they took my deck list as an example.
Wow.
So that's out there somewhere. They called it Grixis Thopters. No, Riley, it's called Treasurette.
Come on.
Yeah, wow. Seemed pretty obvious. But,
and the last card you want, you were hoping to get Dubious Challenge.
Yeah, I love Dubious Challenge. One of my favorite cards. I'm excited to... Wait a minute. I'm in the green section. I'm at D... They seem to have forgotten to put it.
Did they not put Dubious Challenge in the set?
Well, they must have just forgot to put it on the card image gallery.
Oh no, it's definitely there. It's got to be there.
Yeah, there must have.
No, maybe it's not.
That's crazy to me.
Jeff, I'm really sorry. That's Jeff's favorite card from the set.
I'm not going to play this set. Yeah, I loved Dubious Challenge. I understand why it's missing.
Jeff had a great modern deck around this card.
And hey, there's stuff you could do with this in Historic.
Yeah.
Trustani, she makes people give back permanents that aren't theirs. I recently learned that the 2-drop that blinks something, Charming Prince, blinks something that you own, not something you control. Because I stole a Yorion with a Necrone War in the tournament I recently played, and they blinked it right back.
Wow.
So I learned a harsh lesson.
Being like, okay.
So that's what I'm saying. You know, if you put Ulamog or something and Charming Prince, they get to choose which one they want. They have to take the Charming Prince, because otherwise you'll just blink the Ulamog right back to under your control.
So, I mean...
Anyways,
almost had that deck. Would have been really fun to play.
I do understand its exclusion, though. Nobody played it except me.
Damn. But anyway, that's kind of what we feel about the no pass list and our historic things. We're gonna get to some more draft stuff in a minute. But your beer. How do you feel about your beer?
I like this beer. It's a stout.
Yeah, it is a stout.
For me, I really like stout. Is my favorite beer style.
Interesting. I never knew that.
When it's done well, I kind of like the big Russian Imperial style stouts.
Gotcha. Okay.
The Guinness sort of light alcohol percentage and just kind of tastes smooth, I think are fine, but it's not like my go-to for.
For sure, I love a Guinness. Like I love a Guinness, but I don't really consider it a stout in my mind.
Right.
It just seems like a really great beer to watch football with.
Yeah, exactly. and when people kind of say, "Oh, you like stouts like Guinness," right? I'm like, not like Guinness actually.
Not like
really,
Guinness, like
Guinness. I like Guinness and I like stouts. But
yeah, but they don't feel the same to me.
It's almost the bar by which stouts are measured. Like it has to be more like bigger kind of than a Guinness to qualify as a stout.
Exactly. Yeah, I see that.
And this one's pretty good. I'm tempted to just give this like a diamond.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I feel similar about it. It definitely tastes like a stout. And it's
not these big Russian Imperial stouts that I usually love. It's like 6%, just under.
Yeah.
But it's still I get the chocolate and the coffee, and I do like coffee stouts usually.
Yeah, that's usually what they're kind of pushing towards. I think it's good. It definitely feels like the floor though to me. It feels like this is a stout. I think the marketing was perfect, and it does get some extra points because of it. To me it tastes like this is a stout, and this is how
that might have been what pushed me into diamond.
Yeah, so I think I will actually agree with you. Originally I was going to say platinum, but because of the can and the marketing, I'm going to say diamond. It is a stout. Stouts should branch off of this and not on the side of this. So I'm going to say, that's a diamond stout for sure.
What do you think of La Fin du Monde?
So I'm not a big fan of triples, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime a beer has a cork, I'm like, why? This one doesn't have a cork, by the way. It has actually a twist off. Yeah. But I will also say, I know this is one of your favorite beers. Yeah. I know you really like it. I'm probably going to say diamond. I like it a lot.
You don't have to do that just for me. I ranked one of your favorite beers pretty low.
I know you did. But that's more of an emotional thing, not a taste thing, you know. This one is really good. I just probably won't pick it up that much, but I know I like it. And I'm probably never going to go to a fridge and see it and not take it.
Right.
So that's why I feel diamond about it. There are some triples that I have a harder time with, and this one's quite nice.
Of course, you're not going to drink this if you're in diamond, but
no, I'm not going to drink this. Absolutely not. No, I will drink this at the beginning of a season, or when I know that all hope is lost.
Yeah. Or when you make Mythic.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm trying.
Plenty of season left.
You already made your goal, and I'm not even close.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
Yeah, but yeah, I say diamond. What about you?
For me, it's a mythic.
Yeah,
It's one of my favorite beers, and it also has that kind of nostalgia factor. It reminds me of going to draft all those years.
Sure. Yeah, and yeah, I think a diamond. It almost went to platinum because I just don't want to say the name. But it's a fantastic beer, and I really do like it. So, but with that, mine is empty, and I am ready for another one.
That sounds like it's time for a beer break.
It's a beer break.
Nailed it. What did you choose?
I took a French beer.
Which one, man? I need you to say it.
La Fin du Monde.
That's really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying.
Yeah, I also took La Fin du Monde.
Yeah.
And, hey, it's a great beer.
Yeah, it's a great...
Hey, both options were good this time.
Yeah, I just think... I just think it's a great beer. And I should just have another one so I can just forget about everything that happened today, I guess. Yeah. Oh, boy.
When you wake up, Kaladesh Remastered will be out. So.
It will be, yeah. I'll miss a whole day.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking about Kaladesh Remastered Draft.
Right, and we segued that perfectly from constructed to draft.
I really think we did.
With our no pass list.
Yeah, we didn't take a break or anything and drink extra beers or.
So, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
We played a little bit of Kaladesh and a little bit of Aether Revolt.
Yes.
But we also played Amonkhet Remastered on Arena.
Yes.
And I think that's almost the most telling because the way that draft format lined up, not too surprisingly, it was kind of halfway between. So Hour of Devastation, Amonkhet was a lightning fast format.
Yes.
And Hour of Devastation was a really slow, grindy format.
Mm-hmm.
And Amonkhet Remastered was kind of a blend of both, but definitely trended towards Amonkhet in its speed. It was still pretty fast because what makes a format fast is just good aggressive commons, and those were in the set, and they're showing up 3 times as often as they were in Hour of Devastation.
Yeah,
draft.
so we're basically saying that when you were playing Hour of Devastation, you'd only get 1 pack of Amonkhet, right? So you only have 1 chance or 1 pack to get Gustwalkers.
Right.
But in Amonkhet Remastered, you can get Gustwalkers in every pack.
Yeah, and still a common, so it shows up a lot.
You'll see it a lot, and so it can be as aggressive as...
And you can take them early because the Amonkhet pack was 3rd. So you could decide, that's an early Gustwalker, I'm going to be an aggressive deck in pack 1.
Exactly. Instead of deciding, wait, maybe I could be aggressive in pack 3, which is really hard to do.
Right. You've already made your choice by then.
So we are expecting that Kaladesh Remastered will be similar, where Kaladesh was fairly fast. I'm not going to say it's as fast as Amonkhet was, because it didn't have the exert creatures and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it was thought of as a faster set, and Aether Revolt slowed it down a bit.
For sure. Kaladesh was definitely like the creatures are just awesome, so you want to be kind of putting creatures on the board and attacking. A lot of things incentivized attack.
Yeah. And you didn't have as much. I mean, obviously, Revolt kind of came with Aether Revolt, so then you're doing weird attacks, sometimes hoping for trades, so that you can play a Revolt creature to make it bigger or do whatever it does. So it just changes it quite a bit. But I think that the best way to look at Aether Revolt really is through taking a bit of data from Kaladesh and Aether Revolt drafting, but also looking at Amonkhet Remastered and seeing how that shifted things.
Yeah, so because I'm going in with this Amonkhet Remastered sort of data under my belt, I'm expecting this draft format to, again, be exactly kind of in between both, but slightly leaning towards Kaladesh. So I'm going to prioritize the good creatures getting on board rather than kind of the slower, grindy stuff that Aether Revolt might have been known for.
Yeah, so kind of a little bit more proactive than reactive.
Yeah, which is always a good, healthy way to enter a new format anyways. Try to be proactive.
Yes. And I know that at Aether Revolt PT, they were working on a lot of the really good decks were proactive decks.
Right.
Instead of reactive ones.
But let's talk about the formats a little bit, Aether Revolt and Kaladesh.
Yeah.
Right? So in Aether Revolt, white was the worst color.
It was known as the worst color, but not completely unplayable.
Right. So if you're the only white drafter, it's still worth it kind of thing. And Kaladesh, I don't really remember it having a de facto worst color. On the other hand, what were the good colors?
Yeah, so Aether Revolt is definitely red. People really liked red a lot.
Yeah.
And then Kaladesh was more focused towards green.
Right. Green just had a lot of really powerful commons in Kaladesh. Thriving Rhino really jumps out to me.
Yes.
It was basically like a 3/4 for 3 with upside because it made energy. It was a 2/3 and it attacked and got counters when you used your energy.
And notable for this time around, so the thriving cycle, there was a thriving creature in each color.
Right.
But for Kaladesh Remastered, there were only 2 thriving creatures. It is Thriving Rhino and Thriving Turtle.
Right.
Right? So the turtle is fine, but the rhino is really good.
The Rhino was, one of the better green commons.
Yeah.
It was almost just one of the best creatures in Aether Revolt draft because it was just so much more powerful than all the other common creatures.
And piggybacking on that, there's the other kind of cycle that is like the Aether Swooper, Aether Chaser, Aether Poisoner. And they have almost all, I think there's 4 of them, and there's only 1 that's missing.
Okay.
So
I remember the white one was awful, the green one was bad, and the other 3 were good.
I think the green one's missing.
Okay.
And then the rest are there. The white one's still there. Poisoner, Swooper, Chaser, all there.
Yeah, so the red one was really good.
Yes.
The blue and the black ones were pretty good.
Yeah.
The green one was kind of bad, and the white one was just don't play this card.
Yeah, well, it's a 4-drop. So
yeah, it's exactly.
But basically, some of the things are important to know because if you see a cycle, a lot of times when you play a set, you can see a cycle and be like, oh, there's ones of each color.
There's 5, yeah.
But there aren't.
Right.
Right? So just keep that in mind that like there are not all the cycles of all the things, including like the puzzle knots and the implements.
Right.
We don't have the full cycles of all of them. However, there are 3 puzzle knots and 2 implements, and they are all different colors.
Right. It's like the Naya puzzle knots and the blue-black implements.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's correct. So so don't be playing green hoping to get the green implement. It's not there.
Right. And the green implement was pretty good, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Because it put a counter on one of your creatures. So you want to do a little bit of that research yourself. Just look over the gallery. The easiest thing for me was specifically looking at cycles and seeing if they're all present or not.
Right.
Because most of the time you just expect them to be, because that's usually how they make stuff. And this one's just a bit different. So watch out. Don't be looking for cards that aren't there or never will be.
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Don't be like, why is everyone taking this implement? It's like, they're not. It's not even printed. So.
And we were talked in Constructed about cards they omitted from the set.
Yeah.
And there is a notable one for limited.
Yes.
So Renegade Freighter was a limited absolute all-star in Kaladesh. This was a common, and I think it's like a 4/3 trample
For 3?
crew 1.
Yeah.
This card it just felt so unbeatable when it came down. Because your opponent's basically playing a 4/3 trampler for 3 that when it attacks it gets +1/+1 or something. It was a very, very good card. They've cut that from this set. So
we don't have any Renegade Freighters.
And honestly, the main problem with that card was that it was a common. So it just showed up all the time. So I just think it's not... It was the good decision to leave it out of this set.
Yes. I also agree with that.
Yeah. On the other hand, they left some cards in. So Untethered Express and Ridgescale Tusker. These are both uncommons, but they are kind of the best uncommons in the set. I would say Untethered Express is one of the best cards to start on in the whole set.
Interesting. Okay.
Because it's colorless, so it's definitely going to make your deck.
So it's colorless and it's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's just amazing. It's kind of like a vehicle version of the land that the green-red land that it's in modern.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Some of those main lands. But yeah, a lot of people talked about the Untethered Express and Ridgescale Tusker as mythic uncommons.
Right.
So they're, I don't exactly know if they're referring to them as you don't see them very often, as mythic, or they're so good, it's like getting a mythic in the pack.
The latter is what they mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they basically meant like this card is like Ridgescale Tusker is almost better than Verdurous Gearhulk. Like that is crazy. They cost the same, but it's a 5/5 instead of a 4/4.
It often puts more counters out than Verdurous Gearhulk.
Yeah, because Verdurous Gearhulk always puts down 4, and Ridgescale Tusker just puts 1 on everything. So if you're going wide, like you get to be big too. So just be looking out for those. I think that as we play this form of the draft, we will get to see how good they really are, but I still think they're going to be pretty good.
I think Ben Stark might have coined the term mythic uncommon.
Interesting. Okay.
That's what he means, is that basically an uncommon that you would choose over most rares.
So I think
so. Those are kind of the two of this set.
Yeah, definitely look out for those ones, because those are ones that you'll be.
And there's no reason to believe they won't be good in the remastered version. They're
basically, if you see that card and there isn't a card from your no pass list in the pack,
right?
You pick Untitled Express or Ridgekill Tusker. If you're in those colors, of course. Those color, sorry.
Right.
Because one's green, the other one's colorless. So
yeah. So one thing I noticed just from looking through the card list, there's a ton of removal in Kaladesh Remastered. Basically, all the removal spells from Kaladesh and all the removal spells that are common or uncommon from Aether Revolt made it into this set. And so they're just loaded, and they range from cheap removal to and efficient to like unconditional bigger removal spells. So I think you don't have to put as high a priority on removal as you normally do, because you're going to have removal in your deck.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't even think about that.
Right, because there are some sets where there's only like one removal spell.
Yeah.
You need some removal in your deck, so you just have to take that first. This set is just chock full of reasonable quality limited removal.
And so, but how much of that is actually like artifact removal? Like how much?
I wasn't even really counting that.
Okay, but so that's even more. So then you have. Oh, okay, so you have not only just like straight up removal, but you also have artifact removal, which will come in handy. Like how many artifact removal cards would you put in your deck? Probably
one.
Just like exactly one.
Exactly one.
Okay.
So I want one and I don't want two.
God.
If I'm remembering this format correctly, because a lot of the cards have to do with artifacts, but they kind of make servos, or there are cheap artifacts that kind of go with it.
For improvise and stuff like that.
But you do want one, because otherwise you'll lose to Renegade Freighter. Like that kind of, there are some powerful artifacts, but it's not like a Mirrodin artifact set where everything's an artifact and Shatter's the best card in the set. You know?
Okay. All right, well that's good to know. Yeah. Because most of the time when I'm coming to an artifact set, I would think similar to like Theros, where you're like, okay, well, something that exiles an enchantment, that's going to be really important because there's so many enchantments, right? But we don't have the same kind of indestructible artifacts that Theros has indestructible enchantments. So
this was their new take on an artifact set, where it doesn't have it has more artifacts than a usual set, but it's not just all artifacts.
It's not
it's mostly cards that kind of make artifact tokens for you,
and that those tokens can be important to cast other spells that aren't artifacts, that care about artifacts. So okay, that's pretty important. I would definitely feel, normally I would think I would want more than that, or I would almost count artifact removal as just regular removal.
Now again, this set's different. Neither of us have ever drafted this.
Of course, nobody has. Oh, it's best.
Don't worry. On Thursday night, Friday night, I plan on grabbing some beers and drafting this set.
Yes.
Maybe I'll be way off, but my kind of starting point would be I want one way to destroy artifacts in my deck, and that's it.
That's good to know. Now, I think you were the first person to tell me this. Like, I had played this set. I was kind of new to it. And I had built a couple of wacky 4-color decks that was using way too many Unbridled Growths.
Yeah. So Unbridled Growth is fine.
Yeah, but it was basically, most of the time when I was sitting down at a table, I was like, I want to be green and branch from there.
Right.
Because I was focused on Revolt a little bit too much, I think. And Unbridled Growth was great because it would splash your colors until you didn't care, and then you sack it to draw a card, and then you have Revolt for the turn. But the card that you turned me on to that was like the most important card of the block was what?
Renegade Map.
So
this card is very, very good.
Yes.
I think one of the first times we drafted this at Draft and Draft, I took like 5 or 6 of these in the first pack, and then I just took whatever the hell I wanted for the rest of the draft. So Renegade Map should be kind of thought of as like I want to say dual land, but more than that. So this should replace a land slot in your deck.
Just straight up one for one?
Don't play 17 lands. If you have 2 Renegade Maps, play 15 lands and 2 Renegade Maps.
If you have 5 Renegade Maps, do you play 12 lands?
I can't remember exactly what I played. I probably played a little more, but maybe
it
the
feels a
fourth
little
and
risky.
fifth one are close to. But
Yeah.
if you have 1 land and 3 renegade maps, you're gonna have a slow start, but you're gonna have a very functional start.
Yeah.
So renegade map just does it all. It's an artifact for things that care about artifact. It triggers revolt whenever you want it,
Yes.
and it helps you splash.
Yes.
All for the low price of 1 mana, and it's a common. So I think you take this card early. A few weeks later, after I think I 3-0'd that week, because I was taking Cloud Blazers in my like green-blue or green-red deck. You know? And then I didn't get as many renegade maps in the future. They actually became really high picks that I had to fight over. But yeah, renegade map is honestly just a great card. I actually played it in standard. And that would be my advice, is it replaces a land. You should think of it as like a tri-land that or like an evolving wilds that helps you trigger revolt and artifact synergies.
Okay. All right. Because you could keep it around for improvise if you want.
Yeah, if you have plenty of lands in your hand and you don't need to use it right away, you can keep it to improvise things or just trigger any sort of artifact synergy. And then when you need revolt, you can sack it.
You can sack it and then use it for that. You don't have to trade away the creature, which is great because that's a lot of times what people are doing.
Whereas if you have a land in that slot, if you just draw all lands, you're doing nothing.
Yeah. And at least it like... I think this is more important for limited decks than 60-card decks, but taking a land out of your deck and putting it on the field is important.
Right, if you don't want to draw land.
Yeah, exactly.
Deck thinning, yeah.
If you're deck thinning.
The eternal debate about whether that's
Important
relevant or not.
Do you play Evolving Wilds in a monocolored deck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So... I don't know. I think that's kind of the tips we have. We're not experts. We didn't play that much of these formats.
I'm a regular guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
regulars.
We're regulars at this thing. I think the first deck I had played a couple different drafts. Half of it was I was remembering how to draft again because I hadn't drafted since I was a kid, and I was terrible at that. I think the first draft I did, I might have gone... We were playing... Have you played a format where when you draft, you have to write down all the rares? And then at the end of the draft, the prize pool is the rares.
And it's usually a really low buy-in to do it.
Yeah, it's really low buy-in because basically you write down every rare that you get.
Yeah.
And then you have to put the rares down on a table at the end.
You draft rare by position.
Yes.
In the event.
Yeah. And so basically I was playing like white, black zombies kind of. A little bit. I had a Lord of the Undead and I had a zombie deck I wanted to put it in. So I really wanted that card. And then I kind of realized what we were doing a little bit later because I was not exactly sure what was happening.
So there's no point in rare drafting in those events.
Yeah, there is not. Except I used it to go, I think I went probably like 3-3 or something.
Well, there you go.
And then I got it back because nobody wanted it. So I was like, yes. I think I still have it somewhere.
Awesome.
But yeah, so I didn't draft that much. I had done some random, like, everyone brings their draft chaff drafts.
Yeah.
If you've done those. I've played those where each, like, person has to
like
bring...
Walmart packs.
Well, that one was like, we don't have those in the States, actually. We don't have, like dollar store anything packs. Or at least at the time, they weren't really around. So it was literally people just brought cards that they had... And you just have like a weird draft chaff rare that you don't want to use from alliances or whatever. Yeah. So all the rares were garbage. And like the entire draft was so weird because it was just any card from any
It's just
set.
the world's weirdest cube.
It was the weirdest thing ever. But it was super fun. I had a good time. But I didn't know how to draft. The moral of the story is that I didn't know how to draft very well.
So you learned with this set, kind of.
So I learned with Aether Revolt, basically. And I had drafted like this 4-color artifacts deck I thought was really cool, but it was with some rares that nobody wanted. It was like Paya's Revolution and some Aetherborn guy who sacks artifacts to get counters, and then I would try to loop it with Paya's Revolution and some stuff.
That was pretty good in Standard.
My deck was not good, but I was happy that I never had a problem with colors. I was playing 4 colors, and my main focus was never have mana problems. I never did. I just got steamrolled by
some
Renegade
jerk
Freighter.
5 Renegade maps.
It was basically Renegade Freighter steamrolled me a bit.
Oh yeah, that card will do it.
And I played against Chris. He had a Tezzeret, and I was like, well, I don't know how to deal with this.
Pretty good too.
But
Yeah, I love this format too. Like I was just playing at draft and draft, so I'm not, going to PTQ sealed events and drafting in the top 8.
Yeah.
I just personally love to build really like grindy jank decks. Mostly there is this card called Hidden Stockpile, which is in
yes.
Kaladesh
I am excited
Remastered.
I do like Hidden Stockpile.
Yeah, nobody wanted it, and I always would take it after taking my 5 Renegade maps. And so I'm just doing these like weird servo loops that, whether win or lose, I had a great time. So
Yeah, that's.
I look back on this format really fondly.
I look back on it being like I could do a lot better. So I'm
There you
pretty.
go.
I'm pretty excited.
So we're
I feel-
both excited to play.
Yes,
this.
I have like a call to action. Like I know I can do this. I feel like my skills have increased quite a bit from when I really started doing this. So
Perfect.
I'm definitely excited to see that. So once again, we do want to reiterate that this remastered draft or all remastered stuff is not going to be the same as when you were playing in the block.
Right.
So for anyone who played in Kaladesh block, or as you know, Amonkhet block, like it's going to be different.
And don't feel like you shouldn't draft this because you didn't play those, because you might come at a slight disadvantage. Some people will know cards from having played it. Oh, this is a lot better than it looks.
Yeah.
But it's not like, it is a new format, so everyone's learning just like you. So.
Exactly. So when you start drafting it, like, do your best to try to take the cards that were good before, but like, do keep your mind open for things that will come up to you and be like, you know what, this seems to be playing a lot better than I remember, or this card is really great. Why is nobody taking it?
Right.
Definitely be open to that, and don't be so focused on what was happening in the past, because these have proved to be different than they were before.
Sure. I still think it's worthwhile to kind of check out some old draft guides for
Oh,
Kaladesh
yeah,
and
yeah.
Aether Revolt.
It's definitely helped me. Like I was watching old Marshall and LSV drafts, and Ben Stark at the PTQ or
Yeah, and
Pro
I think-
Tour. I guess I can't remember what it was, but
It was a Pro Tour.
it was a
yeah.
Pro Tour.
I think it's worth checking that stuff out, but just don't take it as gospel, right?
Absolutely.
It's a
And
different
that-
format.
That's also just a good thing in general. When you find information, don't take it as gospel. Just take it as everything with a grain of salt, and find your own way.
Unless we said it, then it's for sure.
Well, yeah,
for
I mean,
sure true.
I mean, like take the fast lands and then everything else.
Yeah, that's gospel.
Yeah, that is gospel.
Take the lands.
Take the lands. Rare lands are the best. Don't let anybody.
You'll thank us when you can build almost any deck you want because you have all the lands.
Exactly. Later you'll be like, well, I have all these wild cards. I don't know why. And everyone else trying to build decks, they can't do it. So.
All right. Any last thoughts, Zach?
No, I think we kind of covered it. That's how we feel at the moment. I mean, we don't exactly know what's going on either. So
Right. We might check in again after we've actually played the set.
I mean, we'll probably talk about cards. Maybe some staples might go into our staple list. But yeah, that is how we feel about Kaladesh Remastered.
Really looking forward to it.
I am very excited. So that's going to be fantastic. If you have any suggestions or anything you want to talk to us about, you can always reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, and we'll be playing on Arena under the username Arena Regulars Podcast. If you play against us, give us a hello.
Or something.
Yeah.
Or it's a good game. Just spam it all the way through.
And if you're interested about the tournament I was humble bragging about at the start of this podcast,
Humble bragging, right?
you can find it. I'm going to be posting a tournament report that I think I'll link on our Twitter account, so you can find it on our Twitter.
Yeah, so go check out our Twitter. There's no reason not
I'll
to.
be posting it on Reddit probably and linking it on Twitter.
Totally,
So.
absolutely. Also, we would like to give a shout out to our one listener.
You know who you are.
You're the best. We like you a lot. And with that, this is the end of episode 5. So, good night. All right, that's fine.